Hey everyone, you're listening to the Simple Electronics Podcast, and I'm your host, Dan from the Simple Electronics YouTube channel. And with me today, I've got a very special guest, Gadget Reboot. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. How have you been in the past couple of years of human malware?
Couple years, I think on that scale, I'm pretty good. Last month was a doozy for me, though, with tax season and a whole bunch of obligations with school stuff going on. That was rough, but the pandemic was, aside from when I caught the human malware, everything else was better than last month, basically.
Yeah, I totally forgot about tax season last month. It took me a week to gather up everything. Since I moved, all of my papers and things were all over the place. And, that put me behind for making videos as well. And I'm still maybe now 5 weeks after tax prep time for me. I'm barely getting caught up again. Spring is just a busy time.
So actually, you touched on something that we should dive right into. You said you were busy, so you had to catch up on videos. But since the last time we spoke, you underwent a huge change. Where have you been since the last podcast?
Yeah, I actually physically changed where I'm living like twice because I was living somewhere temporary in between. So when we first talked, I was packing up very gradually over the summer 2020 to move, although I didn't really have a destination plan just yet. And, the big worldwide health crisis thing was going on. And so I was even trying to figure out logistics of how do I do showings when I'm selling my old house, and can I even go and do viewings on somewhere new? And real estate prices were all over the place, so I didn't know, like, where am I going to go and can I afford it? Even though I'm selling one house, if I go to a different area, can I afford that area? And so I was packing a lot for probably half a year and sold the house finally toward the end of 2020. And I went to go stay for about 9 months with my family, and I found a new house to buy. So I put all of my stuff in storage and, kept a soldering iron and a couple of breadboards available so I could still do things and put out the occasional video. And then last July, I was ready to move into my current house. And it's almost been a year, and I don't know where the time went because I'm still taking things out of boxes and trying to find, like, I keep going on AliExpress and Amazon and buying stuff that I know I've got 3 or 4 of, but I can't find. And so I feel like I'm still trying to get caught up on being able to make videos and just have my time organization back on par. But I've been going nonstop for 2 years, and I hope this summer everything gets back on track and I can get back to doing regular videos and I find all my stuff and I don't have to buy a third oscilloscope or something.
Yeah, I hope not. Is it a big secret where you used to live at least and where you live now, or are you okay with sharing that?
Yeah, well, I used to have the P.O. box, so I was in the Greater Toronto area before, and now I moved a couple of hours east of there, so not quite as far as Kingston, but I do go to Kingston for some of my shopping needs. So, it's and I don't know if I'm going to be living in this area for more than a few years. It's more of a short term, let me stop and figure out what I'm doing and see where I really want to go, because it was just a good opportunity to come here. And I do have family around here. So I guess that's how I stumbled into buying another house here, because this is where I was already staying for 9 months and I kind of got more familiar with this area. So I think I'm halfway from where I used to live to where you live.
Probably. And I just want to add a little context for the people listening. So you lived in the Greater Toronto area, which in Canada is sort of like the analog to New York City, more or less. Something like 3 million people live in the GTA, something like that? Huge.
Yeah, I don't know exactly now. Like, I remember, say, I think a couple of decades ago, there might have been 2 million. And I can't remember for sure, though. I'm just trying to think.
So in 2016, we're talking about the greater Toronto area. That'd be like the five boroughs type of New York experience. 6 million people.
Yeah, that was the other thing I was trying to think because they did the mega city amalgamation thing and started incorporating surrounding areas. So I'm not sure like what they include in the population anymore. But I think Toronto itself might have had 2 million 15 or 20 years ago. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, it looks like 2016 there was nearly 3 million in Toronto proper,
Right.
and yeah, about 6 million in the GTA. And just to contextualize for our listeners, there are only about 35 or to 38 million people in all of Canada. So Gadget Reboot is really going from like basically the Toronto to the, let's say, upstate New York kind of area. It's more and I want you to correct me if I'm wrong, but it's much more spread out and much more wildernessy. Maybe not in your specific area, but like just you could on a short drive, you're in the wilderness, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like when I was in the bigger city, let's say I had to go something like visit Home Depot. It might be depending which one I go to. There was a closer one, but the one I preferred to go to, it had better inventory. It was like 20 or 25-minute drive. So, and it felt like no big deal. You're still in the city on the same city street. But here, if I go on the highway to go somewhere like that and it's going to be 25 minutes, I've gone into the wilderness, re-emerged into the next town.
Any wildlife sightings around your new area? Like do you encounter bears and stuff? I know there's black bears all over Ontario, basically.
I haven't encountered anything myself, but I've heard stories from other people around here. Like one time, somebody was putting out their garbage early in the morning, and a fox came along and just brushed up against them on its way down the street.
And again, to contextualize for the listeners that aren't aware of what Canada is like, I live in Ottawa proper in the city, and it is not uncommon here to have basically foxes and coyotes just around and near the house. And a couple years back, there was a moose that created a traffic jam. So just just letting you guys know, I am in a metropolitan area, which is bigger than where Gadget Reboot is now, but not even a fraction of where he used to be. And we have, these wildlife issues here. So I'm not being insensitive. He doesn't live, out in the boonies with no phone service, but just to contextualize the wildlife problems here.
Yeah, this area that I'm in, it's a new subdivision, and there is a lot of development going on. So, like at the end of this street, across the road, it's a farm field, and a little bit so that would be, I think, the west side. So then in the north side, on the back of this subdivision, is another farm field with a tiny house over in the far corner. And I'm not sure, but I think there's still more development planned. I don't know if somebody bought that whole farmland, but it looks like it might become more dense now, and so maybe any wildlife here will get driven out, and it'll just be your standard squirrels and raccoons.
Yeah, maybe. Do you have reasonable access to really fast internet, or like is gigabit not really in your area yet?
I'm not sure if we can do gigabit, but I would think it's pretty on par. I do have fiber optic, but it's a slower tier. Just I was looking for the cheapest thing. I'm pretty sure I could get gigabit because you would think it's a new infrastructure going in, and they wouldn't want to put something obsolete and then have to come and redo it or something, or lose out on that potential business. But yeah, it's pretty good here, and I haven't had any connection issues with it, so I can access both cable or actual proper fiber optic. I think it's not just fiber for the last kind of mile, but it's real fiber the whole way. So I think it's, and the boxes, one of them, the cable is on one side of my front lawn and the fiber optic box is on the other side of my front lawn. So I have really good access.
Well, that's good. You can put up a fence and say, well, if I can't have good internet, neither can you guys, and block access to it. Take that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they have enough allocated outlets in those boxes to cover everybody in this subdivision, but I was, I guess, one of the earlier ones. They're still building houses across the street, and so I did get easy access to plug in. But I've heard other people who have bought houses in new areas. They went to go subscribe to fiber, and we don't have any outlets. You have to wait until someone cancels. So I was mildly concerned about that, but it turned out okay.
Well, good for you. And so, are you unpacking the boxes for good? You're gonna live there forever?
Not forever. It's going to be at least several years. But I can't even guess, like 2 years, 5 years. Now, in my previous house, I had no plans there either, and it turned out to be 13 years. I don't think it'll be that long this time around, because ideally, I would like a little more space around me and get out of the subdivision thing while still having internet and running water and stuff. But I guess, hey, everything is all shaken up right now. I wouldn't know where I could even go and buy something. And I'm willing to consider everything, even if I have to go out of province and find the right property for me. So I'm thinking this ideally is my second last place. And then the next move, I can't handle packing and unpacking anymore. And I would just like to find the right thing wherever that may be, where I can just feel like it's the right move and not just a stepping stone. Okay, I got to do this because the opportunity came up and I got to buy something. I need somewhere to live. I'd rather do it correctly. And even if I got to stay somewhere again temporarily for half a year to make it work, yeah, this won't be where I am, but it's a good place to be in the meantime, because I do have a lot more indoor space here than my previous basement. I used to have a 2-story house, and this one, it's a little bigger in square footage, but it's only a single story. So I have double the basement, which means I finally have somewhere to put part bins, and I have 3 instead of just 1 work tables to have projects all spread out on. So I like that. It'll make it easy to be here for a couple of years.
So then what's your strategy then? Because I know that I think last time we spoke, you were on a feverish mission to move as many things as possible from the house you were living in into a storage unit. Did you take all that stuff now, move it to this house, and now are unboxing things and organizing things, or are you kind of like having in the back of your head that this isn't permanent, so you're not really putting as much effort into it as you could be?
Oh, everything has been moved here because it was like, for all the stuff I had, at least it depends at which point in the move. At one point, I had 3 storage lockers rented, and then I got it down to 2. But it's like all combined, it's several $100s a month. So once I knew I had this house, I once I was able to move in, I just emptied out those storage facilities, and everything is now here. And I needed that because I want to be able to unpack everything and take inventory of it and decide what I actually need to keep or what I can throw out. Because in the old house, with everything being there, but really there's no space, a lot of stuff, I even moved into that house 13 years prior, and some of the boxes I had never even been opened. So I took them from the previous house to that one, and they sat in a corner in the basement. And then I moved them to storage, and then I moved them here. And I knew there's lots of stuff I can downsize, but only now I have room to actually unpack. So yeah, for cost reasons, as well as just being able to see what I have and finally make use of some things that have been in storage forever. Um, I know I need to be here a couple of years at least to make it all justifiable, so I'm not always on the move. But I'm hoping I'll have downsized a bit by the next time I move, because I might be stuck with at least 2 moving trucks as it is. So it would be great if I could get that down to 1 moving truck and even save money there.
Yeah, I mean, so like for me, I guess people who've listened to the podcast that I put out last week or 2 weeks ago, um, for me, like my future is incredibly unsure because I'm trying to become a teacher, and I would much rather teach college than high school because of the maturity gap there, and and so I would much rather get a full time job at any college across Canada than to go teach high school where I am. And that means I might be moving, right? If there's a job opening in, like, let's say Sudbury or North Bay, I mean, I'm out of here. I got to sell the house and move. And so I need to start purging stuff now so that if that happens, it won't be last minute, because I have a lot of like old hobbies that I haven't touched in a couple of years. Like, for example, I own two guitars, I own a amplifier, and I haven't touched a guitar for like, I don't know, years now, a couple of years at least. So was there a little bit of that, like that you had to trim back your old hobbies, or have your hobbies been kind of the same as they were before?
Well, the hobby interests have been constant, but my ability to pursue them is now a lot greater because, for example, even old computers, retro stuff, not as far back as like Commodore 64, but early 90s PCs, so even 286s. I have a couple of motherboards, and I don't know if I have a 386. I have one or two 486s and some early Pentiums. I have 8 or 9 like mini desktop cases, and they were just stuck in corners in the old house, and now they're I need to go through them. So I knew when I moved and I had to move all of those into storage and then move them to here, I knew I can probably throw away at least half of them. I just got to look and see what is compatible between them, and if I have RAM or if it's useless, I can't even power it up. And I just needed time and space to be able to do the inventory. And so I kind of thought, well, I'm moving, so I'll drag it around with me. And now it's all there, and it's waiting for me to get time. And I'm going to be able to throw away half of it because, I don't know if anyone else could use it, if I could sell it or something. But when I throw it out, it's probably because it's definitely busted. It's not recoverable. And then at the same time, I've got a couple of guitars. I have all kinds of music stuff like that. And in the old house, it just sat there because I couldn't make good use of it. So some stuff was in the basement, some stuff was in the second floor in a spare room. And now everything, all of the music stuff is in the basement and it's accessible. I can walk around different parts of the room and just do what I want. But of course, I have to get back into the vibe of it. For example, I have to put on new guitar strings on one of them before I can use it. So I have them, I bought them, but it's sitting there. So I'm kind of in procrastination, habitual. There's no rush because I haven't done anything in the past 3 or 4 years. So why am I in a rush this week? But just knowing the stuff is accessible is a big thing. And yeah, so I think it was redundant to have moved a whole bunch of things into this house, knowing I'm going to get rid of it. But I needed to go through the process. And it is, I can say from 2 years ago, it is a big hassle. I spent, I think, 4 months straight throwing out things. And in the bigger city, not like here where you just have small recycle bins for the curb, in the bigger city, I had a huge garbage bin that you can wheel out, and I had a huge recycling bin. For 4 months, I filled both constantly, and it was so heavy I could barely push it. And it's picked up by a truck with a big claw. There's nobody else needs to be able to lift it. But I was kind of worried, hey, do they weigh this stuff when they lift it? And are they going to reject it because it's too much? And, like I had one recycle bin full of old books, magazines that were of no use anymore. And they took it. I watched them. They lifted it up, no problem, and dumped it. And as soon as I brought it in from the curb, I filled it immediately. I just kept going into the house, coming out with armloads, filled it, waited the next garbage day. And some stuff I drove to the local recycling and garbage center. And during the pandemic early on, they waived a lot of the fees. So I could throw out, I think, £100 per visit per day for free. And after that, it was a certain cost per amount of weight. And I went with, I had borrowed a trailer, a hitch trailer that I could fill up as like a cart on the back of the car. And I had things like, one thing I had to do is remodel one of the bathrooms and tear out everything, the bathtub itself, the tiles, and put in new stuff. So that was really heavy too, but it was all free to throw out. So at the time, so I know it's waiting for the last second. If you know you're going to move, it's good to just do it, like plan it at least half a year, if not longer, in advance and start throwing things out because it catches up fast. And even if you just want to keep making trips to the dump, it still takes time, and it just gets in the way when you're trying to do other stuff like that, packing as well.
Do, do you think that have you indulged in playing with the music stuff? Like I know you said you have to put new strings on the guitar, but it must feel good to have it out in the open and able to be accessible. Did you go and spend some time, maybe do some stress relief?
It's definitely yeah, like a big advantage, even just seeing it there and knowing you have it, even if you can't put it to use. It's half the battle just knowing it's accessible to you. And so, yeah, I've done a little bit of playing around with those musical items. Back in January, I did a video where I made a guitar fuzz effect. So uh, that's one of the guitars that does have strings on it, but it's not the one I normally use. So I used that one for the video. And here and there, maybe over the past several months, I might take 20 minutes at a time and just try something out, and then there's nothing more I can really do at the moment because without having spent too much time, I feel like I'm a perpetual beginner anyway. I only know how to do about 30 seconds of guitar playing, so trying it for 20 minutes and trying to get better at it, like by then my fingers hurt again and I'm out of ideas. I can't just fumble around for an hour and stumble on some new melody or something because I don't know what I'm doing. And I bought my first one in '98. And so, and I lived in an apartment, and I didn't. That's all I had. I still didn't even have a practice amplifier. So now I've bought stuff over the years, and some of it was used on eBay. It was a good deal, so I bought it. And anyone who comes in and looks around, they're going to think, "Is this a professional musician?" He's got two, like half stack rigs that you would see on stage if you had two guitarists, and set of drums and a bass guitar, and there's all kinds of stuff there. And I just chip away at it. But if I had to make a decision, I got to get rid of some of this stuff because I could use the money, and I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not using it to justify it. I'd probably, as soon as I sold it or whatever, I'd probably be back in the music store looking for a good deal again. And so, yeah, even with videos, some of the stuff I'm doing the last few months is building up toward another guitar related project. So there will be some content, and even working on videos that have to do with music things. That helps me as well get back into the mood to do it and pursue it. And also, I watch some guitar related YouTube channels, and that's, on a weekly basis, I probably watch 3 or 4 hours of guitar stuff from regular channels I watch. And that gets me motivated as well. But you know what I got to transition from? Instead of watching those videos for, say, other effects that they review and thinking, hey, I got to go buy that for another couple of hundred and throw it on the pile I never use, I have to probably maybe watch some guitar lesson videos and go over and pick up what I already have and play with that.
Do you have like just real quick before you move off the guitars? Do you have a favorite riff or portion of a song that you like to play?
Well, probably anything like 80s fast hard rock, heavy metal stuff, and probably though the go-to riff would probably be from Van Halen Eruption, and so that's a lot of that hammer on and pull off fast stuff. And if it wasn't for getting copyright strikes, I probably would have demoed something like that on one of my videos that would be suitable for that. I think I've developed a certain similar riff of that certain style of fast playing that I might be demoing in one of the future videos, like a 3 seconds at the end of the guitar demo part, just kind of like an ending finale thing. So I don't think it's anything I've heard anywhere else, and I shouldn't get a strike from it, hopefully. But yeah, I think anything fast and heavy like that, a lot of uh, hard rock, metal, and if I ever pursue it enough and get good at it, I might learn some jazz chords.
There we go. Have you ever heard the song by Priestess, Lay Down?
No, I don't, unless I've heard it and don't know it by name.
It's possible, but for the listeners out there, that was my favorite riff to play. Is the opening to that? And it's fairly easy, but with a bunch of distortion because it's fairly heavy. It sounds really good. So that was mine. If you want to go listen to Van Halen to see what Gadget Reboot what tickles his ears and what tickles mine, there you go.
Yeah, and
So
things like having a lot of distortion as well as even some delay, it helps hide your mistakes. And if you don't know what you're doing, it gets covered up. So it sounds great and it keeps you motivated to keep learning. And if you ever turn off the distortion and try to duplicate, oh, like even that certain Van Halen stuff, if I can play it with all the effects on, and I know sometimes I can't replicate it, like the technique. I'll go and spend 20 minutes one day, no problem, and the next day I'll think, oh, let me try this again, and it sounds like just what is going on? This isn't working. But even on a good day when you can get the sound you want, if you turn off the distortion, turn off the delay and anything else, and you do the same thing, it's like, this is nonsense. Why would I want to even pursue this hobby? I'm no good. So yeah, a lot of effects to get started. It's you'll learn probably better if you can hear your mistakes, but it's motivating. Like, it's like taking piano lessons when you don't want to. If you don't like what you're hearing, you're not necessarily going to pursue it, which is how I ended up spending all the money over the years on the bigger, fancier guitar things, because I had a tiny speaker practice amp with no effects on it, and it never inspired me. So next thing you know, I've got this Marshall big head amplifier sitting on top of a Marshall speaker cabinet, and I've got this other Mesa Boogie cabinet and another heavy amplifier on top of that. Now I'm inspired to learn, and so then that's how I learned to do the 30 seconds I know how to do.
there we go. You had on the mailbag, you had a kit guitar come through. Are we going to see that being built in a video on the channel, or is this more of a Gadget Reboot needs to relax this weekend type project?
Well, I'm not sure where that project is going to end up. I haven't touched it since then. It's still in the box in the basement, and I think part of it is I'm going to need to do some work on that in the garage and sanding and stuff. So I had to wait until at least this time of year anyway, because I got that in the winter. But also, I don't know what I'm doing, and so it's probably going to be a long-term, ongoing thing. Like if I start it sometime in the spring or summer, I'll probably have to film little snippets of things and then turn it into an actual video after the fact. And I don't know how it's going to turn out and if it's going to work at all, if it's straightforward. And but I don't know if it will fit the main channel. I do have the Gadget side load. I don't even know if that's what I called it. I think so, where I put things that may not fit on the main channel, because people may care more about the electronics aspect than, like, they didn't come for a guitar video. So if I did just a video on putting that together, it's electronics and hobby in a way, but yeah, I don't know if it would fit. So I might put it on a second channel, and people would find out about it. Like if I do another video that's more electronics, like another guitar effect, maybe I would cite the other channel saying, hey, this guitar I'm using right here for this demo, I built this, and if you want to go check it out, you can see it over there, and then gauge if there's any interest. Because, if this one goes well, I want to keep doing that and building more and more. So I chose that one. It's the cheapest one. So I'll see how it goes and see if anyone's interested along the way.
Yeah, but you know what? Just to get your brain going, and this is just a request of mine, so feel free to decline. But I think if you dove into the, let's say, the electronics portion of a electric guitar, like how the string waving on top of the pickups generates a waveform and a sound, I think that'd be really cool. And because while you have all the parts apart anyways, because you have to put it into the body yourself or mount it on the pick guard or whatever it may be. That might be an idea for a video if, and you can have that idea free of charge.
Yeah, it is possible that something like that could be worth pursuing. Except, I'd be probably a little out of my element getting into the physics of it. And even those guitar channels I do watch regularly, even the past couple of months, I've seen some of them talk about things like that, and how you get the harmonics out of different positions on the fretboard and what it's based on, and dividing up the string in different lengths and stuff. I feel like I might be an imposter if I tried to cover certain topics, and I don't know if I could pull it off. But it all depends. Like after the fact, like if I go ahead and build it, there's nothing stopping me in the future from taking it apart again to evaluate stuff and get more into it. Like even if I want to do a modification electrically in there, like you can do things like switch out the value of the potentiometers to get different treble or bass impacts on the signal, or swap out the pickups or something. So there's a lot of potential, but yeah, I think it'll be a surprise if I can even get the thing put together, because I do have to do woodworking kind of stuff. Like I have to do a bunch of sanding I don't know exactly how to do, like different grits, and you work your way up. Then you gotta, I don't know if I have to prep the wood surface before I stain it, or how do I finish it after it's stained, and all the urethane options. And I already feel out of my element. So I guess maybe that's my reluctance. Like I don't even know what I'm doing. So I'll have to, like I say, possibly film bits as I go, and then feel like after the fact, is this something that is worth trying to do for a video, or even just get it on the side channel and see. And if it does okay on the side channel, maybe I can move it to the main channel.
I'd say just send it. Screw what everyone thinks. Do what you want to do and send it.
Yeah, that's the YouTube spirit.
Yeah, there we go. So what have you, tell me, what have you been working on lately? Because I see you have a lot of PCBs that you've designed, which by the way, it's no secret that we talk outside of YouTube. We keep in touch, but I find your circuit designs are super complicated, but recently they seem to be building up to something. Is this a secret, or can you share what's going on?
No, it's I've answered some questions in people's comments on some of the videos, wondering, well, what's this leading toward? Because yeah, like some of those boards, like one of them is just a board with 30 relays on it and connectors to get signals in and out and control the relays. And it's, what's this for? So I think I gave an example in the video of how you can route signals around. But I think starting maybe February, I did a board with controlling relays over I2C. And then I ended up doing another board similarly and being able to control even more relays. And it turns out, yeah, that's building up because, to keep it within $5 per batch of boards, not just for us ordering them, but for anyone else who wants to order the shared project for themselves. If I can just split a design up into multiple smaller, cheaper boards and then plug them in together, it's cheaper, but it also gives me months instead of one session to work things out and change my mind and see what didn't work. And so what I'm doing with all of these relay drivers and some other stuff that I still have to make, it's coming toward music related. And so with all those relays, it's going to be ultimately a guitar effect loop switcher. So there's going to be 5 input and output pairs. And so normally if you have a pedal board with a whole bunch of effects on it, you would just step on the foot switch to turn them on or off. But sometimes if you have so many effects that it's in multiple rows, not just all laid out straight, so you can easily get to it, it gets a bit awkward, and you kind of end up tap dancing and trying to turn something on and something else off really quickly, and it becomes a little inefficient if you're trying to do it within a song, not just between songs, and you need it to be as real time as possible. There's loop switchers where you plug those effects into that, and then you just have a bunch of stomp switches directly in front of you, and you can even potentially program them to just, with one foot switch press, you can turn 3 effects off and turn 2 more on, and you can even, depending on the unit, you can change the order of the effects. So like if certain sounds, you might have a distortion going into a delay, but for a different song, you might like the sound of the delay first and it goes into the distortion or something like that. So instead of having to rewire it and unplug things, you just step on a switch and it lets you reconfigure. So I'm getting close to that. I think I've got all the PCBs that I need, and now I'm just putting it together as a demo. And I've got foot switches for that, but I'm looking for a scrap piece of wood that I can mount those to and then wire it up to everything else I have going on. And hopefully, if it all works, I can plug a bunch of effects into it, plug a guitar into that as well, and take the output and go to one of those amplifiers and have, say, an Arduino programmed. I press switch one, it'll turn on three of the effects out of the five or so. I press another switch, it'll turn off everything except one. And yeah, it's called a loop switcher. And so that's the one project I've been building up to. And I find it's a lot, even if the videos one by one are out of context, I found when I'm working on a project like that that I care about, it's a lot easier than just doing a project for the sake of putting out a video. So whether or not people get what I'm doing month by month, hopefully when it all comes together, some people will appreciate that. But if not, well, I'm having fun. So it's still a good thing. And again, it'll get me more motivated to get back into music as a hobby. And maybe I can think of an even better project later that more people would actually be interested in as well. And not just me doing my own side thing for several months and nobody knows what I'm doing. So I think, yeah, it's furthering my electronics design hobby and guitar hobby all at once. And hopefully the YouTube algorithm will present this stuff to somebody who can benefit as well.
Is there a commercial product that you're kind of that this would replace? Like, is there like I'm just looking at relative cost. If you know off the top of your head, obviously, like how much money would you save by making your own versus buying one?
I know there's some products similar that, but they do like twice as many channels of effects. Like we're talking over $1,000 US maybe. Now I'm not too familiar with all the ones available. There's smaller ones with maybe just two effects as well. I think it's more like a single regular guitar effect pedal size format that you can just plug a few things in and switch back and forth, like a toggle maybe. And so, yeah, I think what I'm leaning toward with all the ability to reprogram the order of the effects, not just having them all in a certain chain and then just on and off, but the ability to reprogram which comes first, that takes more relays to be able to switch the signal paths. And so that's how I ended up with choosing 5 channels for myself, because that's what I could fit on a 100 by 100 millimeter board to get it within the flat rate $5 per order. And otherwise, yeah, I don't know how much it would cost. Another thing is I'm getting those relays, from AliExpress, and I can't remember how much I paid. They were in groups of 5 for like several dollars. But if I get them from a more mainstream distributor, I'm paying $3 and something, I think, per one relay. So it all depends on, as well, volume pricing. If I were doing this, mass producing it, of course, I'd get different pricing as well. So it's kind of hard to compare to anything out there. I don't know that I'd be saving money, but at least I'd get the flexibility of doing it the way I want, and I can program the features that I want. But I'm not sure if I'm going to have the same kind of end result quality, because one thing I still am not sure how to achieve, trying to have silence muting between effects, because you step on one switch and it's programmed to turn 3 things off and 2 more things on. You know how it is when you don't have a guitar plugged in, but you just have the cable in your hand and you get that hum. And so that's what happens when you're switching the effects. So I'm looking into things like, as soon as I want to disengage one of the effects, I maybe take a transistor and turn the input of something into ground to mute it, just like turning a volume potentiometer down, it goes to ground. So I still have to do some bench testing like that. But my product, it's only for hobby purpose. I don't plan to even get the features on par with stuff on the market, but it's for fun. And I don't have the $1,000 plus to go buy what would do the features that I want anyway. I don't know if I can get something for 300 or 500, but it might only have 4 channels or something, and it may not be able to reprogram the sequence. It'll just let you go on and off in a preset path of signals and effects. And so,
Yeah,
yeah.
I see Boss has something, a 5-channel effect switching system, and I'm just obviously grabbing this for context. But it's $680 Canadian
Hmm.
for a 5 effect thing. So the what viewers need to understand is that, first of all, none of what we do has to be cost effective, because we're hobbyists, right? We're not doing this we're not pros. So we're not doing this for, to have a competitive edge or whatever, but we're doing these things for fun. But the cool thing about making your own stuff is customization, right? Like you said, you could, you're looking into how to ground out the input or whatever to try to stop the amp hum and stuff like that. But just for context, like, this is closest makes no difference, a $700 Canadian product that you're potentially going to end up like around the $100 mark or something like that.
Yeah, I think yeah, if that's what you get for 5 channels, and I'm also able to do 5 channels, then yeah, it sounds like it would be cost savings. And I'm not sure of the features on that unit. I haven't looked too much into what's available, so I don't even know if that one for that price would be able to change the order of the effects that are programmed for a foot switch. It might just be on and off in whatever order you've already plugged them in. And so yeah, I definitely think. I don't know how physically big that unit is. When I'm doing it with multiple separate boards, it's probably clunkier, bigger, and harder to hook one board into the next, and it looks like a mess. And I don't know if I'm going to build like an enclosure for it, or if I'm just going to consider this a research and development phase where maybe I will commit to a single board, bigger size unit that, it might make sense to make a wider rectangular board, whereas I'm making a bunch of square boards right now, and it's probably clunky. I might just bite the bullet and make a long, wide rectangular board where it makes more sense to the foot switch format. But yeah, this research and development phase, it at least it has the advantage of, like, I already noticed as I'm going through this design for a couple of months, I keep thinking of new features I want. And that's how I ended up with the 30 relays on the board, being able to switch the sequence of the effects and program that in. And what I still don't know if I want to change, instead of something like an Arduino Uno controlling all of this, I'm wondering if I might want to use like an ESP32 so I can also have Wi-Fi and dump new programmable configurations in, or be able to update firmware over the air. And so I don't have to keep opening this box or put a USB port on it. And so the whole thing, it has room to change and grow, instead of you spend $700 and you're stuck with it and it actually might not do what you want after all, and it has limitations, or maybe it doesn't implement something correctly and you get switching noise and pops and clicks when you're changing effects, and you open it up and it's all just, it looks like a single chip and you can't really hack it and fix it. So yeah, I think anyone who's got this hobby level interest in both guitar stuff and electronic stuff, who is thinking about an effect like that, it might be worth just trying it out yourself too. If you're that motivated for it, there's a lot of advantages.
Okay, here's the thought. So you have an ESP32 control the thing. It includes a TFT display with like a display of tabs, right? Guitar tabs. For those who don't know, guitar tabs are like music notation for the people who can't read music notation. And it scrolls down the tabs, and then you can put in custom points where the effects change for you once you get to that point. Huh? Huh?
Yeah, you know what? I'm dabbling in having a screen display on there for the purpose of being able to see, like, if I'm going to change the order of the effects, not just which ones are on and off, where you could have an LED saying this one's on, that one's off. I've thought about having a display on there where I can show like input signal and then show the name or whatever of the effect that's next in line, and so on. So as you change the order of the effects that are in use, it'll update on the display so you know what you've got going on. But yeah, I don't know if there's a way to have it sort of monitor what you're doing. And like there's also some of those loop switchers that are on the market have MIDI control. I don't know if they have input, but I know some of them can do output, because some effect units have a MIDI input where it's kind of like triggering a preset. You just, instead of triggering a MIDI note on a keyboard, it triggers to go into a preset. And So yeah, I'm not sure if there's a way to monitor what you're doing. Maybe a teensy or even an ESP32 digital signal processing to see what if you're doing simpler things and it can pick out what frequencies you're playing. Maybe you could have it kind of even play back some other stuff like a drum synthesizer or a bass that goes on in parallel with what you're doing, and it analyzes you're playing maybe a heavier multi-note chord versus an articulate single note at a time, and it can do accompaniment for you. Yeah, this could just turn into a big, never-ending project.
Yeah, backing tracks, that's something I never even thought of. But yeah, I was thinking of something dumb where it would just go like it would scroll through the song through the tabs at a at a like let's say there's a switch and you just tap the tempo and then it picks up that tempo and then it just, plays through the song, and then at certain points it shifts the effects whether you're there or not, right? It would be a dumb thing. But hey, if you want to add some, backing tracks and stuff, that's that's all you.
Yeah, there's other effects where you can, I forget, I think it might be called a looper, where you start recording on it and it'll sample what you're playing. So you do one or two phrases of a melody and then tell it to just keep going. And then you start playing on top of that. And so, yeah, if you did something like that, had a little recording memory buffer there. So you play a little bit, then you can tell it while that's playing, hey, halfway through, I want to turn on this delay, and then turn it off again when you're almost done and it starts over. And you could set it up, yeah, to auto trigger with a timestamp or something. Yeah, all kinds of things.
Yeah, see, us nerds, we don't have many friends, so we make our electronics back us up instead of having to make friends with someone, that owns a base or something.
Yeah, and you can have more time to come up with more ideas that way, and you never have to wait for somebody to be available.
Yeah, and you know what they say, right? If you have a drum machine, that means the drummer won't be always late. So
Yeah, and you can't really rely necessarily on a bass player anyway, so it's good to be able to synthesize that.
there we go. Just cover all your bases. Ha ha ha
Yeah,
ha ha.
definitely.
All right, so I need to press you on something. So you said at the beginning of this podcast, your own words, that you're halfway between where you used to live and where I live now.
Yeah.
There is a maker meetup here on Saturday, the 14th, which me and my wife will attend. Are you driving up to Ottawa?
Well, aside from the prohibitive cost of gas lately, I think it would cost me over $100 to do that. But aside from that, being in this house, like there's so much going on here. I'm actually all this month and possibly into June. I've got multiple contractors here. I have to get my driveway paved, and I'm still waiting on that to find out when they can do that. But I have like some drywall stuff going on, and I've got to be here. So I'm pretty strapped for this next month at least, unfortunately. But yeah, otherwise, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'd have to see. Like, do you know more about the event? Like, what are they doing, and is it indoor, outdoor, and what's the agenda?
So it's all right. So there's a relatively big mall here, kind of central in Ottawa, the Saint Laurent Shopping Center. That's actually, it's to give context. It's close enough to my house that's where I chose to have my PO box, but still far enough so that people wouldn't be able to follow me home. It's not so much an issue for me, but my wife was using it too, so I didn't want her to get any for any creeps to get any ideas. So it's far enough from home for that and close enough that it's accessible. There's a massive parking lot, and the event is going to be held outdoors in the parking lot. Free parking, free admission. So I don't think it's going to be, like of the size of, like a true maker fair, for example. Like we don't have, the Canadian Tire Center booked or anything like that. It's just in the parking lot. But I think it'll be kind of fun. And in case the listeners didn't hear me last week on the podcast or 2 weeks ago, I will be there with my black t-shirt with my logo on it. And if anybody recognizes the channel or me or whatever, I probably will be wearing a mask depending on how crazy busy it is. But if you recognize me, come up to me. tell me you like my channel or you hate my channel or whatever, and I'll have some PCB kits basically on hand, and I will give you one. So that was my plan, and I thought Gadget Reboot would join us, but I guess he doesn't care to see his fans or whatever. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Don't give him shit for it, guys.
Yeah, well, if you're going to be giving out kits, maybe I should try to make it because, yeah, it's that's. Are you going to be taking any footage while you're there, or just making an appearance and it's not a business day?
Um, I I I don't know. So the thought is that I want to take footage, but I also kind of want to enjoy the event. So probably what I'll do is I'll bring the GoPro with me, the one I use for the snow speeder stuff, and maybe I'll just shoot some footage from like a chest harness or just a little selfie stick. And if someone wants to give me a quick interview, if something's really cool, they want to give me an interview and they want it featured on the channel, maybe I'll do that, or maybe I'll release a 15-20 minute sort of this is what it was type video. But I'm not sure. I've never been to one of these events, and I'm kind of nervous about it because this is in my city and nobody really knows me, like purposefully. Like I try to keep anonymous as much as possible. So we'll see, but I will bring recording equipment. I just don't know if that'll end up in a video or not, basically.
Yeah, I think even just sort of a montage of after the fact snippets with some commentary or something, people would still find interesting to see what happens because I've never attended anything like that either. And so I'm curious what actually happens and what kind of things people get up to. And it's, yeah, if something like that was happening a lot closer to here, I think even if I had stuff going on with the house, maybe I could find a way to get away for a bit if I had other family members here kind of dealing with the contractors for a bit. But yeah, unfortunately, the timing's not good.
And I mean, fair enough. So what I'm seeing too is it's going to be about 30 degrees Celsius on Saturday. Is it Saturday I'm looking at? Saturday, yeah, 30 degrees Celsius. So it's going to be hot. And for those of you in the People's Republic of Myanmar, Libya, and the US, that is 86 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh yeah, it's even today. I had to go out earlier, and the car told me it was 18 degrees outside, and I was already wanting to put on the air conditioning. I've been locked up in the house pretty much, not just for 2 years, but even in just this past winter, and all I'm doing is unpacking and going through stuff. It's I might have a couple of hours a week that I finally sit down and watch videos from other people or something, and I feel like I need to get outside, but I feel like I missed spring, like it's summer already. Yeah, how's it been in your area? Have you been out much to see what the weather's really been like? And is it really like, does it get humid there when it's going to be 30 degrees? Is it going to be more just the temperature dry, or is it going to be hard to breathe as well?
Not in Ottawa. Always hard to breathe
Oh,
here.
God.
Because we're in the valley, right? So all the humidity kind of collects here. And so, yeah, I don't know how it's going to be, because 30 degrees, it's still May, right? So it looks like it's going to be 38% humidity. So that's pretty low. So I'm feeling that's going to be okay. But in summer, it's like 85 is low humidex, really, 85%. So it's going to be like hot, hot.
Yeah, I that's another thing I'm thankful for now being in this newer house. Air conditioning that works because the previous several years in my old house, at one point the central air wasn't really working. Like it would run, but it was so old it wouldn't keep up, and so it would be on forever, and it's still hot and humid inside. So at least here, last summer when I moved in, all I had to do was turn on the air conditioner, and it was climate controlled like you would expect, but oh, I suffered probably 3 solid years in a row, and I would have to have a window fan, and at night try to cool the house down a bit. But uh, yeah, I'm not a fan of high humidity, whether it's indoors or outdoors. So I think, yeah, if it gets when it gets summer here, I don't know what it's going to be like outside uh, in this city as far as if it's going to be very, very humid. But if it is, I'm going to stay inside, I think, a lot.
How was winter, by the way? Because you don't have the GTA is kind of sheltered from heavy snowfall. Did you find the snow to be unbearable last year?
It actually wasn't too bad. I think there were only a couple of times where there was significant snow that I would have to go spend an hour shoveling, and even then, it wasn't even like hard to shovel and keep up. Like it wasn't heavy, wet snow. It was all just light stuff you could push aside easily. Where in my previous house, it was my driveway was only half the size, half the width, but sometimes it would be really hard. I'd have to go back in the house and take a break and come back out. It was just too hard to shovel, and I didn't have a snowblower. But here, it was okay. So I don't know if I just got lucky with the year, but uh, it was, the hardest part about shoveling was the fact that it was just gravel, kind of crushed stone driveway. So I had to be careful not to dig it up and throw it on the lawn all winter. But otherwise, no, it was easy going. I think I got lucky on that.
Nice. Just for context, people up here in Ottawa, we constantly make fun of Torontonians because one year they got like a small amount of snow and they had to call in the military to help them shovel out the whole city, basically. So, yeah, I don't know if you were in Toronto for that time, Gadget.
No, I was actually out of town at that time, but it was a very well publicized time. Had to get the army to come because it snowed.
Yep. Because they have in Toronto's infinite wisdom, they have a subway system which goes above ground, and because the lines that are above ground and below ground are kind of attached, um, it grinded all of the transit to a halt, basically. So, yeah, we're constantly ripping on Toronto for that.
Yeah, some of the uh, subway line, pretty much going north south. There's some areas where it's almost like being on a roller coaster at a theme park or something. You're in the tunnel, it's dark, and then suddenly you're looking at the scenery, and then it goes back into the tunnel again. And yeah, I can see how if there's a problem outside with the weather, yeah, it can shut down the whole system.
So last time you were on, I can't believe it's actually it's already been an hour since we've been chatting. It kind of flew by. So, but last time you were on, you answered the question I ask everyone: what kind of business would you start if you had unlimited funding? Now that you've been through this massive move and now you've got more space and stuff, have you had a chance to think about that more deeply? Is there something you would change from your answer, or are you still going for sort of like a the makerspace type thing where with specialized equipment and specialized training?
I think generally it would be the same mindset for what I would be able to even conceive of, because I guess as I go more toward looking at YouTube as a possible income source, I'm basically doing my own projects basically as a hobby and potentially earning income from it. And so it kind of makes me a little isolated from, unless I do a collaboration kind of thing, it keeps me from maybe thinking more like an entrepreneur looking to start up something new and broad with a business mindset to that. It's so I feel more like I'm going away from being able to think that way. But of course, with my own past experiences of whether it's what I did for a living with design or as a hobby, that's where I can see the one need would be if you need some help either on a technical consulting level from someone more experienced, or you need access to equipment that you just are not going to have on a hobby level, like a $30,000 vector network analyzer. If you need to do some Wi-Fi antenna tuning for a design and you want to choose the right components and verify your board layout so that you're going to get the maximum antenna reception distance, signal strength, and all that, you're not going to necessarily have access to those kind of things. So if there's a facility where you can either go and use the equipment, sort of like an equipment library, and or be able to consult with other people who can help, that's something I could still relate to myself, being able to make use of, because saying that you're an electrical designer, you could be a specialist in RF and know nothing about high-speed digital FPGA stuff or coding. And so you have advanced knowledge, but you need some help depending on what you're doing. So I think that's still where I would lean toward, being able to think of, if you had unlimited financial support from the government to do something, well, let's buy a bunch of that fancy equipment and hire some expensive consultants and do something practical on that level. That it's kind of like paid volunteer work. You're hiring a team and renting equipment to give free access or cost efficient access to people who otherwise don't have the ability to access all of that brain power and equipment.
I'm also glad you mentioned that you feel like you're a little entrepreneur and you're making a possible income from YouTube. Um, I've been out of work for quite a bit now, and I think YouTube's been your main gig for quite a bit now. What's like a few years, maybe? Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think summer 2018 is the last time I worked for somebody else. And it was due to layoffs. Like I had a couple of jobs in a row where everything was fine except they had to do layoffs. And so 2017, there was a layoff, and I was in that job almost 9 years. And then I was in this other job, and it was only ever a contract. But yeah, so I kind of knew that one would end. And so I think because I had the time from the shock initially of suddenly I have no job to go to, and what am I going to do? I guess I'm back in the market, and my resume is out of date. And it took a while. Like I think the layoff was in May 2017, so only January 2018 I started at the new job. So I had all that time to absorb the fact that I was also just recently starting the YouTube channel a little before the layoff. So it wasn't a thought process, let me try YouTube. I was doing that just for my own interest anyway. So through the process of taking half a year to get the next job, and then knowing it's only going to be half a year long, so I just kind of noticed, hey, the YouTube thing is ramping up a bit. It's not going to pay the bills as is, but I am noticing an increase in interest and views, and maybe even sponsorships are starting to become a reality. So it just kind of became a thing where um, I was able to kind of stay afloat in between with the layoffs. So at some point in 2018, when I was back searching for a job again, another half a year went by. So now we're into 2019, and I just kept doing videos. And I had recruiters calling me, and I was finding I was being more picky. Like, that job doesn't really sound like a good match, or the distance is too far, because in the one job that I was almost 9 years, it was a 2.5 hour round trip commute, 5 days a week. And, when you're sitting at home and a recruiter calls you and you're going to have to do another 2.5 hour round trip for a job that you don't think is a good fit, you kind of say, well, maybe I'll just make a few more videos and see if something catches on. And yeah, at this point, it's still not, a life-sustaining full-time income, but just the way things have gone, and there's other resources like between having severance from a layoff kind of thing and any other little things that add up like that. I'm still basically adrift and trying to figure out what the next plan is. So I don't know if I'm going to end up with another job. And if so, I don't know that it'll be a full time. I'm thinking more it'll be a supplemental job. I kind of feel like, if anything, I'd go into part time selective contract by contract. And I think, if I found a place that I wanted to stay, maybe I could just stay on. Like when I had salary full time jobs in some places, they also had full time on site contract people as well. And so that's another possibility where you don't have to feel tied down. So yeah, I think I don't want to feel constrained anymore. And for now, I'm still going. It's almost 4 years now. Wow. So I'm still hanging in there. And without knowing the future plan, I also currently don't feel a threat, like I got to figure something out. So I'm just playing it by ear, and I'm going to see what happens.
Yeah, so that's almost, so it's 4 years for you. So me, it's been almost a year now without a college contract, and I know that for me, my Patreon my Patreon patrons, they have been a major motivational sort of force in my life, and also a monetary support. And without them, and without my sponsorships, I feel like life would be a lot more difficult. How important are those figures for your YouTubing, whether it be the Patreon patrons or the sponsorships? Like how much does that affect you on a daily basis, for example?
Well, I think if I had none of those things, if it was just me putting out a video and then it gets whatever views and then I put out another video, I think I'd be a lot less enthusiastic and I might even give up on it, kind of thing, because we all know, who those of us who make videos, how hard it is, how much time goes into editing. But depending on the kind of video, some people can just let the camera roll and they can do their thing and that's it. That's the video with minimal editing. But for me, at least, there's a lot of cutting up. Like, I might start with an hour of footage to get down to a 6-minute video. And so, like, there's a lot of effort involved for the minimal YouTube Google AdSense revenue side of it. The hourly rate on that is very well below minimum wage. And so, however, when you get a support group and you have contributors to help out on Patreon, or sponsorships as well, supplementing, but even just people giving feedback on comments saying that they were able to benefit from what you did. Like, some of my videos are not just project videos. It's some of it is like, here's a quick tip, a 2.5 minute video on how to do something more practical, like whether it's Christmas light fixing or other stuff. I've got a few different topics I've done things on, like how to get your old NiCad drill battery to recognize again on a charger, how to make your washing machine start running again if your switch for the lid safety is broken. So it thinks the lid's open because, well, the switch isn't closing when you close a lid. I had a video on that, and a lot of people comment, "Hey, this helped me. It saved us hundreds of dollars. We can get by still. We don't have to go shopping." And just any little thing like that, aside from any monetary things, it all makes it worthwhile again. And even it just gives you new ideas. Like, somebody might comment and say, "Hey, this is great. Do you also by chance have a video on this aspect?" Or, "Hey, I'm going to do this for a project I'm working on. I also wanted to do this and I don't know how. Maybe you want to cover that topic." And it's like being alone in the world versus you have people to talk to, and humans need to interact, generally speaking. So at least it exponentially feels more like you're doing something meaningful and thriving and more motivated to keep going. So absolutely, having any sort of feedback mechanism or financial support along the way definitely makes doing it a lot easier and allows it to keep going. And sponsorships financially is a big help, because the AdSense side of things, it doesn't really cover very much for at least small YouTubers, as far as you only get maybe a couple of hundred or a couple of thousand views per video, and some of them may take off and do well. But, for the first maybe month, a lot of my videos, I might earn $2. So when you have a paid sponsorship, whether it's actual money or if it's you get to keep this equipment that you're reviewing, well, that's still money that you would have probably spent for a multimeter or an oscilloscope. Now you don't have to, and it enables you to do more things. And when you get Patreon supporters contributing money as well as sponsorships, it allows you to keep supporting the hobby and make more videos and do more advanced things. And I don't know if I'd be able to do some of this guitar stuff if I didn't have a way to, go to AliExpress and spend all that time researching the parts available and spending all the money on it. Like I say in the mailbags, like, thanks to the Patreon and channel supporters for making it possible, because it really does help.
Yeah, and so you heard it here, folks. Go join Gadget Reboot's Patreon. And if you can afford to, which is fine because the world is in a messed up place right now, then give him some comments. Go watch his videos and tell him what you thought. And I don't mean like, oh, nobody has NiCad batteries anymore. I mean, like, put some thought into it and tell him how he did, because as a content creator, sometimes it does feel like you're putting out videos into the void because they don't you don't get anything back from it, type thing. So do it. And also, for context, my highest grossing podcast episode is the one with Dave Jones. And do you care to know how much money I've earned on that one on AdSense, Gadget?
Oh yeah, that if you're willing to share, I'd be curious about something like that. And yeah, go ahead.
$3.71 US.
Amazing! Wow,
$3.71 US.
I think I'm going to start a podcast.
22 subscribers though, so I think that is more worth it, because especially people that are in the hundreds of subscribers, they would pay a lot more than $3.71 to go up 22 subscribers. But yeah, it is ridiculous how much people think we earn, but really you need to have like millions of views to start earning the big bucks. And so it's just sponsorships, Patreon, and you know what? Comments. That's the gold for us, at least for me, and it seems like for you too.
Yeah, and also depending on the kind of videos that somebody makes, that changes the amount that you earn. Like financial channels seem, I think, to earn a lot more. And so within like the electronics topics, yeah, it's the amount you get per video, like per certain amount of views. Generally, I notice if it's like a project video, whether it's a PCB or it's something on a breadboard, or you're talking about how a component works, it's going to be a lot less than if you have a more mainstream thing, like say the drill with the drill battery or Christmas lights. That appeals to a broader market. So I don't know how the exact advertising algorithm works, where they decide what ads and stuff like that, like which advertisers decide what kind of videos they want to advertise on. I don't know how it all works, but at least when I have a more broad topic, I notice I tend to earn more even within the same small number of views. Like I might earn $7 instead of $2.50.
Oh yeah, and that's a big deal for us. Like it's a numbers game
Yeah.
as a YouTuber. It's sad to say, but it is what it is when you when you have hundreds of videos earning tens of pennies, then it starts adding up. But honestly, like at the moment, I mean, my income from YouTube ad revenue is just about, yeah, it's actually about $150 a month. So that's not a lot. I think to convert that to an hourly rate, you'd be better off converting it to a minutely rate or whatever, or sorry, a daily rate or something instead of an hourly rate.
Oh yeah, it's like I say, it's not life changing, it's not life sustaining. At least for I don't know about other electronics channels that get more views. Um, like say they put out a video and they get regularly 100,000 views plus per video several times a month. I don't know if it scales up as your video gets that big. I don't know if more advertisers come in, no matter what the topic is, because the video somehow seems to be popular. So
I think it does. Because if you think about it, our ad revenue is based on auctions, right? They auction off the ad space, and so if you have a more viewed video, your video becomes more valuable, right? Like more, the price for the auction is going to be up higher. I think that's how it works, at least.
yeah, so there's probably a threshold that if we could just get more views, even in our topics that don't initially generate a lot of ad revenue, maybe there's this threshold that can be reached for any channel where, yeah, you get more active viewers monthly or something, and it ramps up in an exponential way or something, and then it can become life changing. But yeah, I'm kind of stuck between. I'm really doing it as a hobby interest, but it would be nice if it could if I could, replace having to ever get another job again or something like that. Not because I'd rather stay at home, because hey, these days a lot of people get to work from home anyway. So it's not just about the 2.5 hour commute, but I think I'd rather do this kind of work. Like if somebody would pay me to go into an office and do stuff like this, maybe I would consider that. But my as I got further in my career, I kind of felt like I was hitting a ceiling where financially, yeah, you're not going up per year as much as you used to, and you realize that maybe they want you to go away from design and into management at this point because yeah, we have a ceiling because if you earn any more, you're going to be earning what some of those managers over there earn, and we can't do that. So logistically, just in the corporate structure, I reached a ceiling, and so I think I'd be unfulfilled having to go back to that unless I could maybe do it part time sort of thing in a full time role like that, but at don't give me the same level or even more level of responsibility every year, but don't increase the money to match. Like it went out of sync. So if somebody could lower the expectation of a role, like I could go back to halfway toward being a junior and work on hobby level stuff, maybe I'd consider something like that. But yeah, it would be good if I could find a way to get through that YouTube algorithm, figure out how to get more views, more interest, maybe make better content would help, and turn this into a suitable full-time career. Like obviously being at home full-time, I've got full-time sort of to dedicate, but it would, if I were earning a full-time income from what I'm doing, I already put in so many hours and I'm only earning a part-time income out of this. So I'm struggling to keep up with putting out content as it is. I kind of need to know what content changes would I need to make to turn this into more of a business than it is. And I'm trapped in that. Every year I spiral around. What do I need to even change anything? Maybe I try a whole new, like change the channel theme a bit, but it fails instead of does better. So it's an ongoing thing, but I do have one or two videos that got a bunch of views, and it comes and goes. Like Christmas light video is obviously famous around Christmas time, and that does generate some good revenue every year. But the topic itself might dry up. Maybe this coming Christmas I won't get views on that, and then I'll be really having to rethink some things. So yeah, it would be good if we could figure out how to get more revenue with our type of content.
So you hear that? If anyone wants to support Gadget Reboot, share his content, put it in the Reddit places and in the correct places, share it on Twitter. I think all of us have that goal to have our stuff shared around as much as possible. So I hope you guys will go check out Gadget Reboot's channel. If you haven't already, what are you doing on this channel if you haven't heard about him? But go over there, subscribe, let him know how much you appreciate his content. I know I love your content, and I really appreciate you taking time to come onto the podcast today.
Oh yeah, I like your stuff too, especially all these PCBs you're doing, and it's like even different stuff maybe than I would do, and like you say, some of my stuff looks more weird. Like I've got all these convoluted boards that I don't know what's going on, but the stuff that you're doing, like the H-bridge board, I even had one of those made as one of my sponsored videos because it's something I was able to find useful on the workbench. And so yeah, I love watching your stuff as well, and I definitely appreciate you having me back again because yeah, it's good to keep in touch and even look for new ideas. Like right now we're talking about this as a business and just comparing notes and even the possibility of a future makerspace kind of thing. It's good to stay in touch.
You should come up sometime and we can go fishing at some point because I'm trying to organize my life to be more outdoors. You can't stay in my house because I don't like I'm very COVID safe. So, but you can pitch a tent in my backyard if you want.
Yeah, I do have a tent as long as it doesn't leak. I haven't used it in a long time, but yeah, there's options.
There we go. All right, guys. So go subscribe to Gadget Reboot's channel and please leave a comment. That's what we want from you. And if you see something you like, make sure you share it with the relevant people. And thanks for listening. We're going to catch you all in the next one.
Right. Thanks, guys.